Hello and welcome back to the James Johnstone Football Channel. I am, as always, your host, James Johnstone, and this is the Premier League show. So basically, what we're going to do here every week is I'm going to break down all the Premier League games that have happened in the week and give my own unique take and analysis on how I feel these games went. So kicking off the week, we had Crystal Palace versus Arsenal on Friday Night Football. I was very happy, as most of you know, as an Arsenal fan, with the result. I thought the new signings looked really good, as did the team for that first 30 minutes. We allowed Palace back into it, but we killed the game off at the right time with the Bukayo Saka deflected shot into the young goal by Mark Guehi. If you want more of an in-depth analysis on that game, please check out the video on the channel with me and Tom, where we give our full review of it. So the next game was Fulham versus Liverpool. Now, people I've seen have keep saying, was Fulham really good or was Liverpool really that bad? And I think the answer is both. I thought Fulham did really, really well here. Harrison Reed in the middle of the park, along with Polinia, looked incredible. They helped break Liverpool's play and they did their job screening their back four superbly. Reed and Cabano on the wings as well, I thought were very, very lively, as well as Pereira, who they signed from Manchester United. For me, the star of the show, though, was Mitrovic. His first goal, he bullied Liverpool. He pretended like Trent Alexander didn't exist, rose up high and got the header. And then the second, Virgil van Dijk, he's never been dribbled past or conceded a penalty since joining Liverpool. And Mitrovic inflicted both on the man. His strength and determination was pivotal in getting Fulham this point. I think the last time Fulham was in the Premier League, Mitrovic wasn't used to his strengths. Marco Silva is a manager who I've criticised a lot in the past, but he seems to have found a formula here with Mitrovic and the players around him to support what Mitrovic does best. Liverpool, I thought, were much more dangerous in that second half, and I was very impressed with Harvey Elliott when he came on. Darwin Núñez seemed to be their difference maker, albeit very, very lucky. He got his deflected flick goal, and then it was an unintentional assist for Salah, which got them the draw. For me, though, I think Liverpool won't be this bad again. And if you're going to have a bad game, it's best to have it when you've got 37 more games left to play. Next up was Everton versus Chelsea. Now, for me, I wasn't expecting much from this game for Everton, but they did surprise me with how well they seemed to do. I watched Everton play Arsenal in pre-season and they were absolutely awful. So it's quite nice to see now that they're a bit more settled and they've got a lot more of a shape. And it seemed as though Lampard, because it was against Chelsea, because it was also at home, seemed a bit more amped up for it. Chelsea got a penalty that Jorginho converted that got them the win. For me, I thought Koulibaly and Thiago Silva looked absolutely excellent. I mean, Thiago Silva, as per, normally looks excellent anyway, and he's coming up to 38 years old, and for me, he's not really showing any signs of decline. I thought the new signings for Chelsea as well looked good in Sterling, and I thought Cucurella looked good when he come on. Cucurella, the boyhood Chelsea fan. Somehow, I doubt in Catalonia when he was a child, he was sat watching Damien Duff, thinking this could be him one day, but there we go. Everton, without a focal point up top for me, really struggled to create. However, I was very impressed with Alex Iwobi's performance in the number 6 role. That's something I've never seen him do before, and he looked quite good at it, to be fair. However, Onana has now signed for them, so this should improve. However, for me, Everton, they've got to get a centre forward. He needs to have a centre forward there, Lampard, to help him get on the end of things. You've got Damari Gray, you've got McNeil there that can get balls into the box, but they just need someone to get on the end of them and net them some goals. Chelsea, they've got a big game this weekend, but for me as well, they do lack that man up top. I don't see it with Sterling playing off Kai Havertz in front of him. I don't think that can sustain. They've been linked with Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, and if there's anyone that can get the best back out of Aubameyang in England, it's probably going to be Tuchel. Man United versus Brighton. Well, what can I say about Man United? It's just the first week of the season, but what an utter mess is going on here. That lineup for me, as soon as I saw it, I thought was absolutely abysmal. Christian Eriksen was deployed as a false nine, a position that he hasn't played since he was a kid in the Ajax youth team. Harry Maguire, who's a left centre-back, deployed on the right. It just looked like it was going to go wrong. Trossard, within the first few seconds of the game, nearly punished them, and they started to recover actually quite well for 10 or so minutes, Man United, before the capitulation hit. Fernandes had that good chance, which he should have scored, but then, like I said, the capitulation hit. The first goal is a beautiful pick out by Trossard to find Danny Welbeck, who was fantastic all game for me. And he actually looked like what Man United lack and need. He got him behind and slid it into Pascal Gross for a lovely finish. The second, again, it's a great move from Brighton, playing out from the back. The ball ends up with Solly March, who shot parries into Pascal Gross to score his second. It's absolutely shocking defending from Man United. And the midfield screen was absolutely terrible at protecting that back line. United, they play Fred and McTominay for me was extremely lucky to still be on the pitch and should have been sent off for his stamp earlier in the game. Fred, I think teams are figuring him out and seeing him as a pressing trigger. They're bypassing him with ease. For me, Fred, he either takes too many touches or his first touch is so heavy that he just gives the ball basically into the opposing team's press, and then Man United just seem to be on a retreat every time. Brighton as well, I thought were very hard done by not being awarded the penalty in the second half for the shove on Welbeck from Lisandro Martinez. It's one of the most obvious pushes in the back you're going to see. United, they got the consolation goal, but they was down and out by then. And for me, if I'm a Man United fan, I'm worried. The whole transfer debacle for this club, Marko Arnautovic was considered due to the fact Steve McLaren, who's now Man United's assistant manager, has worked with him previously at FC20. I think this is around 2007, maybe 2008 time. But you know who was the top scorer in the league in 2007? Cristiano Ronaldo. However, I think that ship sailed and they probably won't be starting him very often, if not at all anymore. And he'd probably leave by the time the window finishes. Well, for me, if Man United's recruitment policy is looking at strikers from 2007, there's a 40-year-old Roque Santa Cruz that still plays. And if you're lucky, you might be able to convince Yakubu out of retirement. Rabiot, he's also linked, but he doesn't come across for me as the best to have in that dressing room, especially when Ten Hag is constantly talking about how he wants more dressing room harmony. And they seem to have removed one of the big culprits of that in Paul Pogba. Rabiot, though, I don't believe is worse than McTominay or Fred, so he's probably worth getting in. But back on the game, full credit to Brighton. I thought Danny Welbeck, with his 49 touches, 10 in the opposition box, he won 9 duels, completed 4 take-ons, created 3 chances and got 1 assist. However, I thought the man of the match was Caicedo in the midfield. Ironically, a player Man United scouted but decided against signing. Brighton with no Basuma in there anymore. It didn't show, and he ran the show for me for Brighton and was an amazing shift. He won possession the most, he made the most tackles, he made the most interceptions, and I thought he was a real delight to watch. Next up for me, West Ham and Man City. So we go into this game thinking this is going to be the Erling Haaland show, and it actually soon did become the Erling Haaland show. West Ham, they've got an injury crisis at the back, but Manchester City, as normal, like Manchester City normally do, they showed no sympathy. West Ham with Antonio threatened early from a set-piece situation that led into a cross, but then it just stopped and the Erling Haaland show began. The move for the first goal is fantastic. Areola hadn't been on long for Fabianski as he went off injured. Haaland sucked him in, drew him out and won the penalty. Manchester City have had an awful time with penalties over the years, but Erling Haaland picks up that ball and dispatches it home. Second goal for Man City was absolutely incredible to me. West Ham, they've tried to push up and get into the game, but Rodri has an absolute age to find Kevin De Bruyne. As soon as he finds him, you see Erling Haaland is on his bike and he starts one of those imposing and scary runs. De Bruyne slides in the ball and he tucks it in with a beauty of a finish with his left foot. very reminiscent of when Thierry Henry used to open his body and finish with his right. How many times do you think we're going to see this season? It's frightening how good Man City can be with this man up front. If you push high against this City team, he's in behind and you're punished. If you drop off, he plays in the tight spaces and will pick out a teammate and then make a run, and then you're punished. And if you want to try and push Man City out wide, the guy's 6'5" and he's going to dominate you in the air as well. If he can stay fit for the season, I'm sure this man's going to break records in terms of goals scored in the Premier League this year. So moving on to the non-televised game this week, Bournemouth versus Aston Villa. This was a great win for Bournemouth. Villa had all their business done earlier in the window. They smashed pre-season and they fell short here. Bournemouth scored within 2 minutes through Lerma from the second phase of a set piece. Kiefer Moore then scored Bournemouth's second after a lovely cross from Kelly. 2 goals that were conceded here that maybe if Villa had Tyrone Mings, who's more of a physical presence in that back line, they may not have conceded, especially with the second, which was an aerial ball. It's a weird one, what's going on here with Aston Villa and Mings, but I think Mings himself has handled this very, very well. It was a great win for Bournemouth, not a very good start for Aston Villa. However, I think Steven Gerrard and the team and the players are good enough to get back to the form that they were showing last season. It's Everton next for Gerrard. So it's Gerrard versus Lampard. I think this is going to be a good battle, and I'm sure of it. Next up was Leeds versus Wolves, and this was a great win for Leeds. Wolves, they look like they're going into a transition with the 4 at the back and the loss of Cody, who I think is pivotal for them, not just as a player, but as a voice in the dressing room. Wolves got off to a good start with the goal by Podence, but then Jose Sarr was very, very erratic in the goal for Wolves, when he's normally quite assured and comfortable. I was quite shocked that the penalty wasn't given for his foul for Leeds, but then Leeds got back into the game when Rodrigo hit a nice equaliser for them. However, like I've said, Sarr should have done a lot better there for me. The second goal is an own goal from Out-Nouri after a great cross from Patrick Bamford. It was a big win for Leeds, who've got Southampton next and probably fancy themselves in that game as well. Wolves, like I said, it's a transition for them, and Cody leaving, I think it's going to be very interesting to see how Wolves react to this. They've made Ruben Neves a captain, and I think he'll do well. And I think Ruben Neves is a tremendous player. Arsenal, if you're watching, get it done. However, Wolves losing, Leeds winning, I think both these clubs are going to be fine. I think they're both going to survive. So if you're a Wolves fan, I wouldn't panic. Next up was Newcastle versus Nottingham Forest. Newcastle at home with their fans. They want to make St James's a fortress. I think they've got a very, very good chance of doing so. Newcastle had some really good chances early on through Joe Linton, who's been fantastic since Eddie Howe moved him from a centre forward into that midfield role. Bruno Guimaraes and Almiron were also pulling the strings out there for Newcastle in that first half. The first goal was an absolutely fabulous strike from Fabian Schär. Nottingham Forest, they backed off him and he just unleashed hell with his tremendous hit and strike. The second, it's a lovely finish from Wilson. Again, tidy bit of play from Joel Luton. It's a great start for Newcastle, who really want to push for that top 6 this season. Bad start for me for Nottingham Forest. However, I think they'll recover. They have West Ham at home and then Everton away, and I can see them picking up the points in either of these games. I think the comparisons of Nottingham Forest to Fulham of a couple of seasons ago in regards to just throwing money around and hoping something stick are a bit unfair, especially after one game. Let's see how these players settle and see how they do. I think Nottingham Forest got a very, very good manager also. This game was Spurs versus Southampton, and it was a dominant win and comeback for Spurs. They went 1-0 down from a James Ward-Prowse strike, but they didn't crumble. Spurs equalised through Sessegnon with a great header after a beautiful cross from Kulusevski. Then Dyer scores their second with a very nice header as well. Their third goal is nice play between Son and Emerson, and it's a really nice tap-in from Salisu. It's a terrible one goal to concede, in my opinion. The fourth goal is a lovely finish from Kulusevski, who sadly looks like he's becoming quite the formidable player along with Kane and Son. He's got 9 assists and 6 goals since he's joined Spurs, which is a really good return. And I don't think he's talked enough about how good he actually is. Spurs going into the weekend with a big game versus Chelsea. I think this is going to be a really, really good test for them. Southampton, they need to recover, but there's not a lot of good things coming out of the club at the moment in regards to the manager. They have Leeds and Leicester next, and I feel the pressure's not on yet. However, when they go into the fourth week against Man United, if they go into that game without a win against either Leeds or Leicester, and then have a poor game against Man United, I think it could be curtains for Ralph Hasenhüttl. Finishing off the week with Leicester versus Brentford, and it was a great point and a comeback for Brentford this. The opener for Leicester, it comes from Castagni with the header from a Maddison corner, and the second goal is a lovely hit from Dewsbury Hall, who for me I think looks like a real gem for Leicester and possibly for England in the future. Brentford pulled a goal back for the main man, Ivan Toney, who for me cannot be given that much time and space in the box. It was not good defending from Amati at all. The equaliser for Brentford is a beauty of a goal from Josh Da Silva. And like I said, it was a great point and a comeback for Brentford going into the game against Manchester United. So to summarise for the week, my player of the week is Aleksandar Mitrovic. For me, he was promoted with Fulham. He comes up against one of the favourites for the title and showed no fear and was absolutely excellent and executed what he needed to do to get Fulham that point. The goal of the week for me is Fabian Schär for Newcastle. Like I said earlier, what a hit from the man. And moving on to this week's games, for me, the standout tie is Chelsea versus Spurs. However, look out for the Monday night football between Liverpool and Palace. I believe that could be a very, very tasty game as well. You've also got the early kickoff of Gerrard versus Lampard. However, I think another game this week that if you can watch it, take a look, is Brighton at home to Newcastle. So there you have it. There's my analysis of week 1 in the Premier League. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching, and please leave a like and subscribe if you don't already. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment box below, and follow me on Twitter at LLCoolJames91. Take care, everybody. Enjoy the football this weekend, and I'll see you again when I see you again.